Coming up next.
Whether you've revisited something or it's waiting on you, or you might be where I am, where it's like you're seeing the door open, you're seeing this invitation come, and you're like, are we going back there? I thought we were done with all of that. Listen, think about how powerful it is when you can look at the circumstances that once held you captive and go, that's been redeemed. It's been made new. We don't want like this graveyard of places, spaces, and people that we can't go back to. Oh no, I won't touch that, and I won't go there, and I won't be this, and I won't do that, and I won't engage there. Like that's bondage. We know we're in bondage when we got a list a mile long of things that we can't and will not do. When we're truly free, we'll go wherever he calls us to go. And that is what he wants for his bride. That's when we know we're becoming spotless and pure before him.
Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer podcast with coach, encourager, and strategist Anna McLaughlin. If you're a Christian woman who has big dreams rooted in an even bigger God, but most days those dreams feel completely out of reach, trust me, I get it. As a homeschooling mama of 4, entrepreneur, investor, and all-around wearer of many hats, I am right there with you. And yet the Lord invites us to live out our God-given purpose now in the midst of the madness. So let's explore together how we can know our calling and walk in it today with clarity, with courage, with each other. It's time for you to live the life you love and love the life you live. Let's do this thing.
Hello, friend. I'm so glad you're here today. Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer. We're going to have a conversation something that's been just marinating in the back of my mind. And I find there's this thing that comes up, and then I'm like, okay, is this what I'm supposed to talk about? Is this what I'm supposed to talk about? And then I sit with it for a while, and I literally can't think of anything else. I have these other topics that I've been wanting to hit that are more kind of, I don't know, tactical, strategic. But then we just keep coming back to the heart center, and I can't let it go. So here we are. What in your life do you feel like you would have said, never ever will I ever, ever go back to that? We're done with that. That is over. And maybe because I find so often the Lord does in the corporate what he's doing in the individual. So there will be something I'm going through and I'm like, gosh, am I the only one? And then I start to talk to my brothers and sisters in the faith. No, this is something that he's doing in the body in different ways. So I've talked to several people recently, and I myself am also in this season of revisiting some never evers. Things that I swore I would never go back to. And I'm not talking about things that are sinful or wrong, but oh Lord, thank you so much that this chapter is closed. In my mind, I think forever. And then the years and the decades maybe even go by. And it looks like we're going back there. If you have found yourself in a place like this, let's dig into this conversation because I think the first emotion that arises is shame. I swore I'd never, and here we are. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss the boat? Did I mishear you originally? Am I unfaithful now? What is happening that here we are again? Here we are again. If you have a place in your life where you're feeling like, here we are again, I thought we were done with that. I just want to invite you into maybe a changed perspective that's going to set you free a little bit. And it actually came to me because of a conversation that I was having offline with one of our upcoming podcast guests who's an absolute gem. And she was talking about this idea of, I'm not going back to Egypt. I'm not returning to that old yuck again. The door is closed. It's over. We're not going back there. Meanwhile, I was in the middle of reopening a door that had been in prior years my own Egypt. Most of you know I used to be, once upon a time, a corporate lawyer. You may or may not know that. Well, as of late, I've been looking, what's the work to do? I've got coaching available. I love doing that. But there's for years we built businesses. I don't have I don't have the drive, the fire to give that emotional energy out there right now. Unless the Lord calls me to it, but it's just not coming. And so I've started looking at positions and opportunities and things like that. And the places where the doors have been opening have looked like they might be related to revisiting lawyering. The thing I swore, I mean, people would ask me, you think you'll ever go back to practicing law again? And I would laugh. No, I am done with that. Let me be clear. That is over. Similarly, my husband was in a line of work about 10 years ago, and he left. Well, he left about 10 years ago, and in the past couple of years, went back to it. And so as we've been revisiting this for me, of me going back to potentially something law related, there was that feeling of struggle, of shame. Did I misunderstand? Did I do something wrong? Are we going backwards? And then this phrase, I'm not going back to Egypt. It's such a rallying cry. And in the context in which she meant it, so beautiful. But I felt this reckoning in my spirit where I was like, I've got to look at this. And I know I'm not alone because the Lord does not give me things to say to just land in the dust in front of my feet. And you know what? If you're listening to this and you're like, I'm totally not there, that's great. That's wonderful. But just know if you ever are, that the Lord has an encouragement for you in that space. And here it is. Okay, so what do we know about Egypt from the scriptures? First, actually, and this is so beautiful. The very first thing that Egypt was, so we know Egypt best as the place of Israel's enslavement. They enslaved the Israelites for 400 years as the Israelites were growing and expanding. Okay? But we have to remember that first, it was a safe haven and the source of their salvation, right? As we know from the very, very end of Genesis. Okay, I actually wasn't going to start here. And then the Lord reminded me, Israel wasn't just about enslavement. It was also about salvation. Okay. And so Joseph is sold into slavery by his brothers, and by a series of events, he ends up in Egypt. And then he is in Potiphar's house as a servant. His Potiphar's wife wants to have a dalliance with him. He says no, so she pretends that she lies and says that he was trying to rape her. He goes into prison. He has dream interpretation that he does. He is able to tell somebody that he's going to be set free from prison. Please remember me. The guy doesn't remember him. And then the Pharaoh has a dream. And all of a sudden, I forget if it was the wine, I think it was the wine taster. I think the baker got killed and the wine taster is the one who got saved. The wine taster was like, "Oh my gosh, I know a guy. He's in prison. I was supposed to speak highly about him, completely forgot. It had been years at this point." And so I think it was 20 or 30, maybe even 40 years that Joseph was basically either in Potiphar's house or in prison. And so then he gets brought out. He's able to interpret the dream. There's going to be a devastating famine. 7 years of bounty, and then 7 years of a devastating famine. Okay? Do not miss this. And I heard this in a sermon. It's like I never truly understood quite exactly the potential consequence. If Joseph does not go into slavery, that wipes out Christ's lineage. That wipes out all of the Israelite people, right? And um, so we know the story. Joseph is put in the highest position, second only to the Pharaoh. He saves all this food, and then everybody's crops are decimated, they're starving, and they come to Egypt for sanctuary. So the Israelite people are put in Goshen, safe and secure. And then after Jacob dies, the brothers are afraid. Okay, now he's going to get us. Maybe he was being nice because dad was still alive, but now we're toast. And so they fall down before him and say, "We're here as your slaves." But Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people as he is doing today. So have no fear. I myself will provide for you and your little ones." In this way, he reassured them, speaking kindly to them. So they stay in Egypt. Initially, it's their place of sanctuary, right? It's their safe place. but it becomes their place of oppression that they need to be freed from. And that's what Exodus is all about. Well, it doesn't end there. Throughout the Old Testament, this idea of going back to Egypt is seen as this place of, it's seen as this almost like going a dog going back to its own vomit, right? It's seen as this place of oppression, this place of fear, playing small. And so now this phrase in kind of the Christian vernacular has come to mean, oh, we're not trusting God. We're in the bad place, okay? And we see this play out even more because we're not done with Egypt. We see this playing out even more as we look at the the exile period. So first, and I'm not really going to dig into this too much, but first in I believe in Isaiah when the let's see, Israel falls to Assyria. Okay, so when the Assyrians come and decimate Israel. So again, we got two tribes now. We've got Israel and we've got Judah. They separated after the reign of Solomon because Rehoboam, I think his name is Solomon's son, was very unwise as basically a consequence of Solomon's sin. And so he lost roughly 90% of the kingdom. Okay. So Israel gets taken down because they were by far the worst kingdom. There were no righteous kings in Israel. And in the wake of that, the Israelites, what do? They flee to Egypt. Okay. Next, and this is detailed in Jeremiah as well as I think it might be in Kings as well, but we'll focus on Jeremiah. Then the Babylonians are wanting tribute. They're starting to kind of breathe down Judah's neck. So Judah, the smaller kingdom, the kingdom with some righteous kings, and so they go to Jeremiah and they say, so they're having trouble and they're getting afraid that they're going to be taken out. So they go to the prophet Jeremiah and said, Be good enough to, this is in Jeremiah 42 to start, and we'll go a little bit deeper. Be good enough to listen to our plea and pray to the Lord your God for us, for all of this remnant. There's only a few of us left. They go on to say, just tell us what to do. Okay. And then Jeremiah says, let me see where I want to pick it up for you guys. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon as you have been. Do not be afraid of him, says the Lord, for I am with you to save you and to rescue you from his hand. I will grant you mercy, and he will have mercy on you and restore you to your native soil. But if you continue to say, We will not stay in this land, thus disobeying the voice of the Lord your God and saying, No, we will go to the land of Egypt, where we shall not see war or hear the sound of the trumpet or be hungry for bread, and there we will stay. Then hear the word of the Lord, O remnant of Judah. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. If you are determined to enter Egypt and go to settle there, then the sword that you fear shall overtake you there in the land of Egypt, and the famine that you dread shall follow close after you into Egypt, and there you shall die. All the people who have determined to go to Egypt to settle there shall die by the sword, by famine, and by pestilence. They shall have no remnant or survivor from the disaster that I am bringing upon them. In other words, oh, there's so much more in this. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there because I want to bring you to the redemption place. That's where we're really headed. In other words, what he's saying is you need to look to me, not these outside sources. You need to look to me as salvation. There's this beautiful phrase, I think it's in the Psalms, don't trust in princes and mighty men who cannot save. You must trust in me, as illogical as it looks. Here's this tiny little remnant, and the Lord's saying, I'm calling you to stay where you are, safe and held in Judah. Don't go hiding in big old Egypt and think you're going to be safe because all that judgment that you're trying to run from, it's going to meet you there. If you will stay under my care and my protection, you're going to get to stay in the land. All will be well. But if you go trying to make a solution, like trying to grab man's solution, oh, that let's partner with the strong guys. Let's go hide under their care. They're actually going to be decimated too. You're all going down, right? Okay, so there's ample reason for us to, and it's P.S. The end result, they went to Egypt. They basically said, "You're lying." It's chapter 23. You're telling a lie. The Lord our God did not send you to say, "Do not go to Egypt to settle there." But Baruch, son of Neriah, is inciting you against us to hand us over to the Chaldeans in order that they may kill us or take us into exile in Babylon. Here they go to the man of God, and then they promptly dismiss him. Why? Because in the natural, it doesn't make sense, and their hearts had already turned away from the Lord, from centuries of idol worship. Centuries. Okay. So this whole idea of let's tuck up in Egypt, let's tuck up in Egypt has been something that Israel as a people have come back to again and again. But now, let's look at what the Lord does. Let's turn our eyes to Matthew. After the Exodus, after the exile, after the returning from the exile, after the 400 years of silence, here we come to, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 AD, somewhere like that. Christ has been born. And you might remember Herod wanted to take him out, right? He found out about the wise men who came to find the king of the Jews, and he's a little bit worried. He was more than a little bit worried about all of this, right? Okay, so the wise men have come. They've given him gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Now, after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and what? Flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. "Out of Egypt I have called my son." That was in Hosea 11:1. Okay. All right. So here's the correlation I want to draw. And I want to be really clear here. We can't, it's out of order to kind of stretch the text of the scriptures around current events and say, "Oh, look, it's the same." But I do think that there's a principle here that I want to invite you into. So there is sin. There is wrong living. There's being out of order before the Father. Okay? And then there are the circumstances in which we find ourselves in life. And we need to be really clear about what universe we're talking about. What I want to offer to you is simply, I want to take the arc of what the Lord did around Egypt in scripture and just invite you to view those places and spaces and periods of time and people that we encounter in our lives that are not inherently bad. Okay. If someone's sitting there and going, "Does this mean I should go back to like working at a casino and helping people lose their livelihood to gambling addiction and foster that?" No, I would say that's probably a good thing to walk away from, right? We don't want to be fostering sin or dysfunction or bondage, right? What I'm talking about is that was a really rough work situation. That was a really challenging relationship. That was a really difficult season or place, or like where you go to places and you like start to have these memories. And I'll give you an example. So I connected with a podcast guest that I just loved, and she lived about 45 minutes away from some family that we were headed to visit. And so I was like, we should meet. We should get face to face. We should like be friends in real life. Wouldn't that be amazing? Come to find out, as I'm driving to her place, I am literally retracing the steps from a friendship that was very toxic and destructive in my life. Decades later, I can feel my heart racing because this is a place of the country I have no reason to go to otherwise. It's not like, "Oh, I just happened to drive by this," right? So we start to build associations with a place and a person because of repeated visits. Now, if we then are also going to that place for other reasons, then there's no association. We're fine, right? But I mean, I remember, for example, when my dad was in the hospital for cancer when I was in middle school. I didn't darken those doors again for 3 years. And then a friend was in the hospital. I went to visit her, and it all came back to the point where I had to sit down because the emotions of just of that time in my life were so thick because there was, it's like there's the smell, there's the hallway, the lighting, the noises, the conversation, and it all came back because there had been no other association to break that correlation. Does that make sense? Okay, so I go down to visit this new friend, and I'm driving on the same roads and I'm smelling the same smells and I'm seeing the same places. And I'm literally like, oh, I remember that's where we used to turn to go to that place. And that's the store that we used to go to. And we went out to eat there. And it's all rushing back 20 years later almost. And I can feel it in my body. I remember telling a friend because I'd looked up the directions of where I was going. I was like, it's like the same place. I'm 2 minutes from this woman's house who had been such a destructive force in my life. And so I asked her to pray. I'm like, what if I run into this person? I don't even know what I would say. And do you know what happened? I had the most beautiful, because in my brain, I'm like, of course God's going to make me run into this person because I'm right there. That must be why this is happening. No, it wasn't. He was breaking the association. He was taking away the power of that memory over that place. And I remember having a really sweet conversation with a friend following up saying he redeems spaces. That place is not evil. There was just pain associated with it. But now what do I have? This memory of this precious morning with a friend, a new friend that now gets to live on. Okay. So what is something like that for you where you're just like, I don't know. I know if I went back there to that person, to that conversation, to that place, to that type, to that type of experience, it would all come back again. And here's what I want to invite you to. I just wonder, and this is what the Lord gave me that was so sweet when I was like, Lord, am I going back to Egypt? Like, am I enslaving myself again to something you've already set me free from? This seems to be where you want me to go. This seems to be like an open door. And you know what he showed me? And this is, I'm not saying thus saith the Lord, I'm just inviting you to consider. What if part of why the Father had Christ set his sweet feet in Egypt was to redeem Egypt for us as the people of God? The problem is not with the place, it's with our heart's posture, right? What is it? I will be, like basically, Paul talks about, I'm not going to be governed by anything, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you eat or what you drink or what you wear. It matters our heart's posture before the Lord. I feel like that's in Romans 14. I'm going to see if I can find it. Okay. Okay, so I found what I wanted, but then I found something even better. So what I thought I was talking about was this passage in 1 Corinthians 10, where it's talking about whether or not you can eat food sacrificed to idols. And in that, it goes on to say, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do everything for the glory of God. Okay. And in that passage, it's not quite exactly what I was trying to catch, but the idea is it actually says in the scriptures, it's okay not to ask whether meat has been sacrificed for idols, to idols. But if you find out it has been, don't eat it out of regard for the person who brought it to your attention, because it could cause them to stumble, and it could hurt their conscience, and we don't want to do that. So really the focus of that verse is about, it's not quite what I wanted. It's talking about focusing on honoring someone else and protecting their conscience, even though your own conscience may not be pricked. So we might see this, for example, playing out in our culture today around the subject of alcohol. If that's not something that you have an issue with, but you're hanging out with friends who do, that might be a time when you would abstain just as a way to honor them. That's kind of what it's talking about. But this is more where I wanted to go. Okay. So we're in Hebrews 10. Okay. And it's talking about Christ. But when Christ had offered for all time a single sacrifice for sins, his crucifixion, he sat down at the right hand of God, and since then has been waiting until his enemies would be made a footstool for his feet. For by a single offering he has perfected for all time those who are sanctified. Okay, here's what I want to catch here. The ground you walk on is holy ground because he made it holy. The work he's called you to do is sanctified because he's with you. And sometimes he draws us into spaces and seasons and relationships that can break us in that moment. But we go from glory to glory. Friend, he doesn't want to leave you kind of ensnared by something in your past. He doesn't want you ruminating and going, oh my gosh, that was so terrible. Oh, I hope I never have to go back there again. If you feel him opening the door, it's a new day. I just want to like press that in as a balm to your heart. It's a new day. He's doing a new thing. The old has passed away. You're a new creation. You've been remade a million times over since that moment. And he wants to bring you back there to go see. It's not so scary. It's like those movies that, oh, I think I was 7 years old when Little Mermaid came out. And I went under the chair in the movie theater when Ursula got all huge and massive on screen. Do you remember that? Not to give any spoilers away, but hopefully, if you wanted to see it, you've seen it at some point in the past 30 plus years. Terrified, terrified. But then one day, I watched it again. And now I can watch it with my kids and not even blink. It doesn't even bother them. That's how many years have gone by that they're past the point where it would feel scary. We're not the same. We're not the Israelites going back to our own vomit. Now, you got to watch it. You got to make sure before the Lord that that's correct. If you've just come out of a toxic relationship, this is not the moment to turn around and go back in. But there may come a day. I've had some friendships redeemed. I actually may have one of those friends come on and share about all that she has. I've asked her, and I hope she'll say yes, all that she has learned before the Lord about peacemaking, true peacemaking, and she has taught me so much. That relationship, that friendship was hard for both of us. But the years went by and the hearts healed, and we each prayed for one another from a distance. And then we were able to come back, and now she's one of my favorites. So dear to me, so precious. So I just want to say to you, whether you've revisited something or it's waiting on you, or you might be where I am, where it's like you're seeing the door open, you're seeing this invitation come, and you're like, are we going back there? I thought we were done with all of that. Listen, think about how powerful it is when you can look at the circumstances that once held you captive and go, that's been redeemed. It's been made new. We don't want like this graveyard of places, spaces, and people that we can't go back to. Oh no, I won't touch that, and I won't go there, and I won't be this, and I won't do that, and I won't engage there. Like that's bondage. We know we're in bondage when we got a list a mile long of things that we can't and will not do. When we're truly free, we'll go wherever he calls us to go. And that is what he wants for his bride. That's when we know we're becoming spotless and pure before him. Is where we're doing, and just remember what we talked about, true courage. If you've not listened to the episode on courage, go and grab it because it was one of the most important conversations I've ever had revealed to me before the Lord. True courage, the word means in the Hebrew means to fasten. It means you're holding fast to the vine. You are living the John 15 life of being so deeply rooted in the vine that you will go wherever he takes you, whatever that looks like. And I'm just going to offer that if you haven't come to this place where you're kind of doing a revisiting, it's coming. Because he doesn't want you to be owned by anything but him. That's true freedom. When we have open hands to go, I'll go wherever he sends me, even if it's back to Egypt, right? Christ goes to Egypt, and what does it become? Once again, it's sanctuary. Right? And this is why I didn't even catch until I started talking. It began as sanctuary. And then this is what we do. Our hearts are little idol factories. We take that sanctuary and we try to like put the old blessing on a new day. Oh, it used to be sanctuary. Maybe it still will be. And we don't know this. We can't put this on the text, but what if What if when the Egyptians started being like, oh, we'll just have these guys do what we want? What if there was a point where the Israelites could have left and they were like, oh, but this is our sanctuary? Like, what if it was just for a season, right? They got the food, they weathered the famine. Why did they stay there? Sometimes we get kind of cozy in our bondage, right? And we'll stay there. This is our safe place. And you see it even as the Exodus is happening. The Israelites are mad at Moses. We could have had all the food we wanted in Egypt. Why did you take us out? So great was their devotion to their bondage that the Lord had to eliminate that generation. He had to wait for them to die out before he could bring the new into the promised land because they were so devoted to their bondage. Who knows but that they would have created the whole entire system again, all over again in the promised land. Just, oh, just tell us what to do and we'll do it. You know, going to Jericho, going to all these different communities and going right back into slavery because it's what they knew. They were devoted to it. Right. So we kind of grab hold, we get all cozy in our wubbies and we just want to stay and just keep us safe. It has to lose its power. We have to be light on our feet and willing to go where he's calling us to go next. Right. And then it may be when we're willing to go wherever, as Christ was, that then we can revisit that place and go, sanctuary, a safe place to land, but just for a season, right? He was probably a toddlerish, 2 years old or less, because of course we know that Herod went on to kill the babies in Bethlehem that were 2 and under. So he was a toddler going into Egypt. By the time he was 12, he was out again. Probably much before then, because it said Joseph stayed until the Lord called him back. Right? We must be light on our feet, friends. But that includes being willing to go back to the place that we swore we'd never return. It's a new day. Let it be so before the Father. Okay? Okay. Now, if you're in this space where you're like, I think I'm called back to Egypt, I want to hear about it so I can pray for you specifically. Nothing beats the prayers of someone who's either currently walking through the same thing or has weathered it recently. My heart is so tender for you. It does bring up so many questions. Am I doing the right thing, Lord? Am I where you want me to be? I would be honored to pray for you in that space. Okay. Now, in the meantime, as always, you know you've got this, my friend, because he is holding you. Till next time.
Friend, thank you so much for listening to this most recent episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. So listen, the whole idea behind this mission is that when we endeavor to be brave with our lives, we need to do it together. Belonging is key. So if you resonated with the message from this episode, share it with a friend. Do it together. Thank you again. And until next time, never forget, you've got this because he's got you.